The cursed mirror. There was something deeply unsettling about the old mirror that stood in the attic of the Blackwood Manor. For over a century, it had gathered dust and whispers, a relic of a bygone era. No one dared to touch it, let alone gaze into its surface. The legend surrounding it was well known. Whoever stared into the mirror for too long would see more than just their reflection. They would see something else. Something that was watching. It was the year 1987 when the Turner family moved into the manor. Mark Turner, a history professor, was fascinated by the house's Gothic architecture and its eerie reputation. His wife, Laura, and their two children, Emily and Jason, were less enthusiastic. From the moment they stepped inside, the air felt heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath. While exploring the attic one evening, Jason stumbled upon the mirror. It was massive, its silver frame ornate and covered in intricate carvings of twisted faces, contorted in silent screams. The glass was murky, as if time itself had left scars upon its surface. "Dad, look at this," Jason called out. Mark ascended the creaky stairs and stared at the mirror with awe. He ran his fingers along the carvings, noting how cold the frame felt despite the summer heat. There was an inscription at the bottom in Latin, Speculum Demonium, the demon's mirror, he whispered, intrigued rather than fearful. Laura was immediately unnerved. "I don't like it," she said. "It looks wrong." "Nonsense," Mark laughed. "It's just an antique. Probably worth a fortune." That night, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that the mirror was watching him. Every time he passed by the attic door, he felt a pull, an unnatural, insidious curiosity. Finally, he gave in. He tiptoed up the stairs, heart pounding, and stood before the mirror. For a moment, he saw only his own reflection. But then his reflection blinked. Jason hadn't blinked. He gasped and stumbled backward. His reflection's mouth curled into a sinister grin, even as his own lips remained still. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, his reflection raised a hand and placed a single finger to its lips. "Shoo!" Jason screamed. His parents came running. Laura found him trembling on the floor, eyes wide with terror. "There was something in the mirror," he sobbed. Mark sighed. "It's just an old mirror, Jason. Your imagination is running wild." But Jason knew what he had seen. And worse, he knew it had seen him too. That night, the house was filled with whispers. Shadows moved where no light shone. The air was thick with a suffocating dread. In the attic, the mirror stood untouched, yet something within its depths stirred. Laura was the first to see it. She woke in the middle of the night to the sound of a soft, rhythmic tapping. At first, she thought it was rain against the window, until she realized the sound was coming from the mirror. Tap. 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 She turned on the light, her breath shallow. The mirror was completely dark, as though it had swallowed all the light in the room. And then, ever so faintly, a shape began to emerge. A hand, pale, bony fingers pressed against the glass from the inside, dragging long, jagged nails across the surface. A face followed, a hollow, grinning visage with sunken black eyes that bore into her soul. Laura screamed. The entity slammed against the glass, its mouth stretching open in an unnatural, silent scream. Cracks spiderwebbed across the mirror's surface, but it did not break. Instead, the cracks formed words. "Let me out." The Turner family tried to leave the next morning, but the house wouldn't let them. Every door led back inside. Every window revealed only darkness beyond. The phone lines were dead. Time itself seemed distorted, looping endlessly between dusk and midnight. Emily, the youngest, was the next victim. She vanished without a sound. One moment she was in her room, humming softly. The next, her bed was empty, the sheets untouched. The only clue was the mirror, now glistening with fresh condensation, as if someone had breathed against it from the other side. Laura and Mark frantically searched for their daughter, but she was nowhere. And then they heard her voice. "Mommy?" The voice was soft, distant, echoing from within the mirror. Laura rushed to it, placing her hands against the cold glass. "Emily?" Emily's face appeared, her eyes wide with fear. "Mommy, help me," she cried, pounding against the inside of the mirror. "It's coming for me." A pair of skeletal hands dragged her back into the darkness, her screams abruptly silenced. The mirror shattered, but Emily was gone. Desperate, Mark researched the mirror's origins. He discovered that it had once belonged to a man named Alistair Crowden, an occultist who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The mirror, it was said, was a gateway, a prison for something ancient and malevolent. Laura, now half mad with grief, refused to leave the attic, staring into the broken remains of the mirror, whispering Emily's name over and over. That was when the whispers turned into voices. That was when the voices turned into screams. That was when the house consumed them all. Years passed, and the Blackwood Manor fell into ruin. No one dared enter, not after the Turner family's mysterious disappearance. But the mirror remained, untouched, unbroken, its shards still reflecting something that was no longer there. And sometimes, if you listen closely, you can hear the tapping. Tap, tap, tap.